You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So visit FanDuel.com to get started with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan dropping in to set the table for Red Raider hoops. It's Tech and West Virginia, the Duchendorf Cup, the battle for John Denver's soul from Lubbock, Texas, America. Back at United Supermarkets Arena, Chris, after Tech comes up short on the road earlier in the week. We'll talk about some Tuesday takeaways following the loss to the Frogs. Can the Red Raiders bounce back? We'll talk about a real verified dude that's going to be there in a Mountaineer uniform and providing a challenge for Texas Tech. And, of course, in a bit of a different sequence, I think, as far as the league slate is concerned, as you kick off your weekend, because you got a really quick turnaround to one of the biggest regular season games of the year. So not only the quick turnaround, the layer that it's Houston, who is there just around the corner, also added to this one. So want to make sure, I guess, all eyes are on the prize. Any other cliches we can throw in? Don't let one loss turn into a second. Don't count your chickens before they hatch, etc. Going to be applicable to this one Saturday.
Well, and it's just I've been I think this is my first, like Friday, Saturday at home in about a month. And you don't realize how how much you appreciate those at times when then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're headed to Tucson. Hey, you're headed to, I mean, it's been a while since you've had a Saturday home game. And these are kind of the holy grail of home games in a basketball season, the Saturday home game in the conference. And that's where it's really difficult for the road team to pull off the upset, which is you were able to do in Houston several weeks ago. But this is a West Virginia team, man. And so this game is sold out. I think that because of the Saturday component, I know Joey's got a fantasy football camp thing going with a bunch of guys that have come in and checking out his football program. They'll all be at this game, and tickets have been sold out for at least a week plus to this one. But the environment should be great. It's an earlier tip at noon, and I don't think it'll be sleepy per se, just because you haven't been home on a Saturday in a while, and people with kids or whatever, they can't get to the late weeknight games. But here's your one on a Saturday. This West Virginia team is going to come in here with a okay record, but I don't think the general fan is aware that this West Virginia team has beaten the following. And anybody in the country would chalk these wins up and go, huh. I mean, hell yeah, you'd be puffing your chest out. Okay, so let's try this on. Gonzaga, Arizona, Iowa State, Kansas. That's who this team has beaten this year.
A good year,
I think. Yeah, getting your attention yet? Yeah, I mean that's the thing. And so because of that, they are in almost every NCAA tournament projection as one of the last teams in from a Big 12 standpoint. But they are on the right side of the bubble because of, and they should be. You put that together. This isn't fluky. And so Darren DeVries is the first-year head coach that replaced Bob Huggins and all those things. I think he's done an unbelievable job, especially considering their best player on paper may have been his son that has been injured, the majority of the year. And so they're doing all this without their version of JT or Darion Williams or Chance McMillan. And yet it's not sexy at times, but this is also Coach DeVries also was Kevin Overton's coach last year. I mean, there's a lot of similarities here. He's a longtime Creighton assistant, and then he was at Drake for 6 years maybe. And so this is year one. And I think he's done a phenomenal job based on expectations and then based on that injury of putting his team in a good spot. So they will try to come in here and muck this thing up, and it won't take us too much longer to mention the name of Javon Small to you, former Oklahoma State player from last year that was on the Cowboy roster last year. it's going to be an easy scouting report for you on knowing what it may take West Virginia to do to be able to beat you, because it starts and ends with Javon Small.
So takeaways from Tuesday as far as the bounce back effort is concerned starts there defensively for the Red Raiders, I imagine. But what else do you feel like has to change from what we saw earlier in the week if you're going to get back on the right side of the win-loss column?
Well, and I bet Grant will tell in his meetings with the media leading up to this one, I bet it is along the lines of, because I think when coaches have watched West Virginia, they talk about how hard they play. They're a bit of depleted from a roster standpoint. Like I said, there's not a ton of playmaking. Well, they make up for it with just a lot of energy and effort, and this is what I think got you beat the other night. And that's so I'd be willing to bet you that's one of the takeaways. You better show up with a purpose, because one of the recipes to victory for West Virginia is if you allow them to do these, do these things like out hustle you on the glass, get that 50-50 ball, whatever. And there's some shot making that West Virginia will need to participate in as well to get to where they want to go. But as I've just laid out here, man, they've beaten Cincinnati twice. They've beaten Utah. They're in this is an NCAA tournament team, and at least at this point right now, and they've got a tricky end of their season schedule. I'm just telling you as of right now. But you go beating Iowa State, which you couldn't do, and you had them at home. You go beating Gonzaga on any year. You beat Arizona in any year. You beat Kansas in any year. I mean, these are these are headliners. These are quad one wins is what they are, and I think they've got like 6 of them. So, like, you don't go looking at them and look at their record and see that they're middling or see that it's going to take a – no, they've figured out ways to do it. But I'm just telling you, the hustle and the play hard component is something you must take from Tuesday night in Fort Worth and reapply it and be ready to match and exceed what West Virginia will come in here with.
And I would imagine there was some attention gotten in that department by Coach McCaslin and his staff since that ball game. So would expect to see an energized team on the floor, partly because of that, partly because of an electric environment, we hope, as well. Tricky little sequence here. So trying to maintain some of what you got here for this first challenge, knowing that Houston is looming large. Probably easier said than done, right?
Yeah, and I like the way this sets up because, okay, so when I mentioned to you scouting report, like West Virginia is going to be an easy scout because Javon Small, he's averaging like about 18 points a game. Okay, he is their playmaker. He's got to provide a lot of offense. He's not a just big-time three-point shooter. But this is what you'll see in the NCAA tournament. And the reason I'm going to draw that analogy is because this is the way the tournament's going to work when you get to the NCAAs Friday, Sunday, Thursday, Saturday. So it's a bang, bang. And odds are you're going to see a team that's got a really legit dude on their team, whether it's a group of 5 team, a mid-major, some small conference champion. They're going to have somebody like a Javon Small that you're like, okay, that gets our focus. And then if you were to win that game, you're going to turn right around and probably play a much better team that's a little bit more well-rounded, like a Houston, although Houston is really well-rounded, as we know. Right? And so I like that. I like the way this sets up. This is good practice. I think this is the first time that you've really had a stretch like this. And it on paper, it goes from pretty tough to really tough, which is the way the NCAA tournament will go. So it's kind of a fascinating little 2-game homestand. And your guys need to be at home. I mean, this little back-to-back road trip that you had and that double overtime game that you had, the last one at home leading into this deal, your guys need some juice. They needed a few extra days. They need to be able to kind of get into some normalcy here in the LBK. And I like it because there's a payoff on the back end of it too. You go Saturday, Monday, and then you don't play again until the following Saturday when you go to Kansas. So you get a little extra time and rest before you go to Allen Fieldhouse in Kansas, who is a complete mess right now. You went up to Utah and worked those 2 teams, and the Kansas schools went up there and they got it spoon fed to them. So, but that we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a week or so. But yeah, this is a fun little turnaround. This is when you should really enjoy and embrace being in the thick of this deal. when you get a couple of home games that are extremely meaningful against two NCAA tournament teams that they're staring you in the face at home. So I know ticket prices are fairly high, but yeah, let's bring it on.
You definitely want to embrace it just as far as the challenge and the opportunity goes, but I hadn't really thought about that as far as maybe some preparation is concerned to kind of get you in that rhythm or give you a taste of that rhythm at least ahead of March. And I know that we did our Matador Mob mailbag yesterday, but there were questions being asked also. I think it was Tyson and Andrea from the Matador Mob asking about kind of some particular seeding interests and really having the 3 seed circled and, wondering about wins over these next couple of games. And maybe could you still find yourself on that line, or if you're taking L's, do you certainly remove yourself from that? So those things still up in the air.
I don't want to say that you're going to have to beat Houston to achieve the 3, to be on the 3 line. However, it'd go a long way.
Yeah,
it'd go a long way. And you know what? To be honest with you, I'd be okay being a 4 if you sent me to Wichita or Denver, because that's as close as you're going to get from a Tech fan standpoint is Wichita or Denver. It's one of those 2 places. And I think if you're a 4 and get sent there, I'd be okay with that. And maybe,
True.
Knowing that I'm blindly saying that, like the options, and I'm not sure the opponents and what the matchup would look like and all that. But at this point, that's what you're playing for. You're really playing for the 3, 4, and 5 range, and you're playing for geography. And you're fortunate to be in this situation. But a win over Houston is like the holy grail, right? And I think if you get 2 of them, I mean, that is a pretty nice little trump card to lay out. That's an ace of spades when you're sitting around with your buddies. It's like, well, I got the ace I can drop down anytime and drop the hammer. That's a pretty good one because nobody else has really gotten those wins in this league. And the only ones that have gotten them are Auburn and Alabama, and they're like 1-2 last week, right? So, yeah, but that's what you're. If you lose to Houston and win all the rest of them or something, you could still get to that point or win the majority of them and all that. But yeah, these are the conversations you're kind of starting to have here. And a loss against TCU ended up not really hurting you much based on the metrics because TCU's kind of done some damage recently and because it was a road loss and it was close. Yeah. So we'll see.
All right, Chris, appreciate a little bit of extra time, man, to get ready for this one. Enjoy the ball game, and we'll get together on the other side.
Bang, bang, guns up. Hey, light them up, C4. You heard it here first, right there from Coach Cowan. I'll see if I can't I can't spit that one out. If given the opportunity, I'll give Cowan all the royalties.
Well, throw in a little for Cody, too, because it was Cody that was the originator.
There you go. Yeah. Put it on a shirt.
Brilliant Matador Mob members. There are many. All right. Yeah. Thank you guys for being out there. As always, get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks to the Everydayers for always riding along, and shout out to the Matador Mob. If you're interested in becoming a Matador Mobster, hit the show notes, find a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. Have a great weekend. Appreciate the time all week long.